Two huge pro days going down today. Alabama and Ohio State opening their doors for pro scouts to come and see the talent in the building. We're going to talk a lot about that today. We start in Columbus, where Arvell Reese, look at him, and Sonny Styles headlining a deep defensive class. That Ohio State defense, unbelievable. The two linebackers will likely be off the board in the top 10. On the offensive side of the ball, Carnell Tate, considered the top wideout by many of our draft experts. He was on the field working out this afternoon. We'll check in on that as well as hearing from him. And down in Tuscaloosa, Ty Simpson made his final case to scouts about why he is worth a first-round pick in next month's draft. We're going to talk about Ty Simpson. You're also going to hear from him. And so glad that you're with us here on NFL Live. We're going to get things started right there at Alabama. Field Yates was at the facility watching all of it, speaking with Ty Simpson as well, seeing those throws. Field, Simpson shined at the Combine in Indy last month. How did he look at his pro day today?
Yeah, Laura, no surprise that Ty Simpson was once again as advertised as a thrower today. There was precision passing, not just in the short and intermediate game, but down the field. And that was one of the questions that Ty was here to answer today, is what is his downfield arm strength like, especially when throwing a little bit off platform. On top of that, Ty, who noted to me after his workout that he is perhaps a better athlete than people give him credit for, threw the football effectively while on the move today during a 50-60 throw overall session. And a lot of these receivers obviously are very familiar to Ty, but it felt like the ball placement was most consistently where it needed to be. And Ty has had a busy past few weeks getting ready and geared up for today, Laura, but it's just getting started here for Ty, who's already had visits with teams prior to his pro day. He told me after the workout that he is next scheduled to work out for the Jets this upcoming Friday. That's a private workout, so teams that are canvassing quarterbacks in the first round beyond Fernando Mendoza are amongst the likes of the Jets at 2, the Cardinals at 3, the Browns at 6 and 24 as well. So the Jets, one of those teams that we have circled, are going to get a closer look at Ty this upcoming Friday.
All right, we'll keep an eye on that. I'm sure there's going to be a lot of reporting coming out of that. Field, we appreciate you. You're sticking around for more. Simpson, by the way, one of 19 players participating in Tuscaloosa today. New on NFL Live, Field references. He did talk with Simpson right after his workout. Talk about what he wanted to show teams today.
I think, one, my IQ and the command at the line of scrimmage. You look at my tape, I'm always in the line doing something with our checks or getting us in the right place. So I feel like that, that sets me apart from a lot of other people. Two, I think people don't, give me enough credit for my athletic ability. On the boot, on runs, getting away from the pocket. I feel like that's a huge part of my game and something that, quarterbacks have to do during, playing in the NFL. And then, the third thing is my arm. I feel like I can make any throw on the field, whether it's on time or having to scramble and throw it down the field like I showed out in pro day. Just something that, I feel like that I showed out in the pro day and, made some throws.
Yeah, Field was talking about some of those throws he made. Looked really good. Dan Orlovsky, Adam Schefter with us now. And Dan, you're as optimistic as anyone about Ty Simpson's future. Why?
I just think when you watch the young man play this year, you can carbon copy so much of what he does, transfer to the NFL, and you go, I got a starter for 10 years that's going to play at a high level. I think he's really good underneath the center, the play-action pass game, which we know has become a massive part of NFL offenses. I think he's really good dealing with panic moments. Laura, you know me. It's one of my favorite things for quarterbacks. What do you do in moments of panics, that decision-making element? I think he's really good downfield with his eyes. I call it playing with fast eyes. I think he's pretty darn good under pressure. I know there's been a lot of conversation of who he was under pressure at the end of the season. If you compare him to what most people believe should be the #1 pick in the NFL draft, Fernando Mendoza, there's a lot of similarities, and I would make the claim that I think Simpson navigates the pocket just as good. And so it's not an offense in college that had a lot of gimme to it, easy. It was a lot of, I have to throw the ball down the field, 15, 20, 25-yard chunks over defenders, in between defenders, in real windows. And I think you watch a lot of the things that he did, and you see a lot of quarterbacks in the NFL, Baker Mayfield, Brock Purdy, Jordan Love, Matthew Stafford, Trevor Lawrence, at least schematically, operate very similar things.
Yeah, we've talked about this a good bit on this show, just the fact that the run game for Alabama was essentially non-existent as well.
Yeah, he got about 78 yards per game rushing from his running backs.
Good stats, Dan. You got it. It's
do.
true. Yeah, also some dropped balls as well.
Yes.
Adam, any sense about how Simpson is viewed by teams around the league?
Well, Laura, I think clearly is the #2 quarterback draft, despite what Dan says at this point in time, and we're waiting to see exactly where he goes in this draft. It's not easy to find a matching spot, and I think part of This is what happens Friday with the New Jets, who hold the 16th overall selection. Do the Jets like him enough there and take him? I think there are questions around the league about that actually will discussion about the Rams. Happens.
All right, Adam is taking some technical hits here. We'll get back to him in just a little bit. Adam certainly providing the context there, though, that either way the Jets are going to check him out on Friday.
Yeah.
And Dan, if you're the Jets, what are you looking out for when they see him on Friday for that private workout? Take us inside, like, what those are even like.
Yeah, I would imagine that number one is just being around him, how he carries himself. I think you'd love to get him thrown outside in a little bit of weather. That's what you're going to have to deal with, the reality. I know Alabama deals with it a little bit. It's not like Northeast weather, and so hopefully you can get a spring day in April or late March where it's a little bit windy. I think you want to just see him, can he drive the football in those environments at least as much as you can? And then what type of offense are you planning to run? And I would try to get him to operate some of those things, at least scheme-wise, that you want to operate. Frank Reich, their offensive coordinator, do you want to go in the gun more? Do you want to go in shot in underneath the center more? Do you want to do a little bit more bootlegger play action? So putting him in those elements and just seeing how he handles it, I think, is an important part.
Yeah, as you see right there on your screen, Mel has the Jets taking him at 16. You have a touchscreen coming up later in the show. Tell us just a very quick teaser on what that's going to be.
It's probably my favorite play of the season for him, 4th and 8 against Missouri. Has to evade pressure, and there's also nowhere to throw the football, and he throws it perfectly.
All right, you'll see more on that later in the show. Let's get to the other pro day that's happening today that we've got our eyes on. Field has 5 Ohio State players going in the first 2 rounds of his latest mock, 4 of them going in the top 6. Arvell Reese to the Cardinals, Sonny Styles to the Titans, Caleb Downs to the Giants, and Carnell Tate to the Browns. My goodness, no school has ever had 4 players go in the top 6. Only one school had 4 players go in the top 10. That was Michigan State back in the first year of the Common Draft, 1967. So some history could be made. And it really wouldn't shock any of us because this Ohio State team is so dang good. Lewis Riddick is in Columbus where he watched all of today's action. Lewis, let's start with the 2 linebackers that seem to be in everybody's top 10, Arvell Reese and Sonny Styles. How do they look out there today?
Yeah, I'll start with Sonny Styles. He didn't work out. He was in street clothes today, but I did get a chance to speak to a former teammate of mine, that being his father. I got to speak to Lorenzo Styles Sr., and I got to speak to his mother, and they are just beaming with pride about what their young man really faces and really what he's looking forward to once he gets to the NFL. Arvell Reese, on the other hand, he did work out today, and he told me he wanted to work out because I think really giving people a little bit of a taste of what they're going to get when they put his hand down and let him rush the passer is really what he wants to focus on. And he wants to focus on showing people that he has got elite get-off. And I can tell you today, he has elite get-off. He's got elite bend, body control, body quickness and twitch, change of direction. He's got it all, and he's absolutely put together. Doesn't have an ounce of fat on him, big, broad shoulders. He's just one of those guys who, when you look at him, you think of, this is what the ideal edge player looks like. This is what the ideal joker looks like. About 6'4", 6'5", in the 240, 250 range, who can run sub 4.5 in the 4.4s. And he's got like just those wide, beaming eyes that says, look, give me the challenge and I'll accept it. And I think right here, look, you saw a lot of defensive coaches here today, a lot of GMs. They were all fixated on what Arvell Reese was putting on display here.
Yeah, there's some dudes that are like, I'm not sure if I'm going to take my shirt off. If you look like them, that's why you just take it off. You say, yep, this is going to look good to everybody. All right, as a former safety, I'm sure you were locked in on Caleb Downs this afternoon. What did you see out of him?
Yeah, just a cool, calm, and collected individual. Caleb he just exudes leadership. He exudes someone who comes off as someone who is used to being at the command and control center. And that's really how his workout was. It was very smooth and controlled. His hips and his shoulder height were always on the same level, meaning he's not bopping up and down. He's just under real good control because he's got great core strength and a great lower body. He's got great leaping ability. He was able to go up and high point the football in the deep areas of the field and catch it, with consistency. And when I got a chance to talk to him, after his workout was over, he just kind of knows where he is at as far as his development at this point in time, and he knows the best is yet to come with him. And I think these teams know the same thing, and that's why he's also going to go off the board, as it's just about, most of this football team really high in the first round.
Draft the whole team in the first round. By the way, Lewis, you're going to love this number.
Basically.
Downs did not allow a touchdown as a primary defender in 2 seasons at Ohio State. Not just 1, but 2. All right, busy day for Lewis. After watching the workouts, he caught up with Arvell Reese to talk about what he wanted to prove today.
Yeah, to me, it doesn't really matter. But what I do want to do, something that I didn't do a lot here, is just work on my craft of pass rushing. You know, I was inside linebacker throughout the week during Indy, things like that. So I just want to take more time dedicated to pass rushing and learn how to pass rush.
Right. What are the things when you talk about pass rush, and it's cool because I love these kind of conversations, the people who you've kind of really consulted as far as trying to get your pass rush game up to par and continue to develop it, what do they tell you are some of the real keys to being one of the better ones in the league?
Yeah, Coach Larnett just tell me all the time, be fast and violent.
Right.
So that's what I be thinking when I'm lining up, just play fast as I can and be as violent as possible.
Yep.
Sure.
All right, so little secret, Mike T was here the whole time. We just haven't seen him yet, but now you see him. Dan, let's start with Arvell Reese. Do you have any questions about his fit at the next level?
No, I think asking Mike T and Lewis be something I'm more interested in, because if you're taking him second, third, fourth, whatever, are you allowing him to play both positions? Are you only drafting a guy that early to be a pass rusher? Like, how are you using him to justify the pick, I guess?
Yeah, no, that's a great question. Those are discussions we used to have with Rex Ryan, our friend and colleague, and when we were at the Jets together. Knowing Rex, he would want to make sure they could rush the passer and then move him around the front seven a lot, the way that Lou alluded to as a joker, standing up, moving around. And the fact that we've seen him do it on tape, Dan, gives you a lot more comfort to draft him as high as what we're talking about, second or third overall. But being able to rush the passer in the top 5 is absolutely a critical
So
factor.
you think the versatility helps him rather than hinders him?
Without question, like if you're trying to break the tie, let's say between him and David Bailey, let's say.
Sure.
His versatility may, again, working with somebody like Rex, who's so game plan specific, the fact that he could do a lot of different jobs could be the reason you would take, let's say, Reese over Bailey if everything else was equal.
Yeah.
It's interesting, just because, I mean, when we think of versatility, Aaron Glenn is not, I don't think he's as schematically as advanced as like a Rex Ryan. Robert Saleh at 4, certainly not. So then you're thinking, okay, what coaches are these? I mean, Dan Quinn is a guy that has the past with Micah Parsons and using him all over different places. Does he have to go to somewhere that uses him in that regard? Or can he go somewhere like 2 and be just a pass rusher?
Sure, and look, he would impact the Jets in so many ways, and I would start him at pass rusher and maybe add things to his play. I think one of the things, I made some mistakes in my career, is asking a rookie to do too much. So if you say, hey, Arvell in year 1, like we're going to get 30 great snaps of just going forward.
Sure.
And then we're going to add, zone drops and all these other great things we could do, but let's get really good at one thing first.
Yeah, by the way, that's an interesting peek into what it might be like for these teams trying to figure out where they're going to go. And these draft picks, especially at the top of the draft, so incredibly important. Let's talk about Sonny Styles a little bit more. We don't see traditional linebackers a lot of times going in the top 10. Why is Styles worth breaking that trend?
Yeah, Laura, he's fascinating me. By the way, I love Arvell Reese, agreed with everything Dan and Lou said, but to me, the height of Sonny Styles is remarkably unique. And Dan, you know this as a former quarterback. When someone's 6'5", 244, and he ran a 4.46 and Tampa 2 running down the seam, or just playing with vision on the quarterback, that is really difficult for a quarterback to throw the ball over somebody that tall and that athletic. I think he is extremely rare and a prototype in today's game.
So he's Brian Urlacher type. Urlacher was that 6'5", 250-pound middle linebacker that was so athletic in the middle of the field and could lie to you with his body, but the length that he played with. I was just talking about Ty Simpson and throwing the ball over guys. That's such a different world when you have to throw it over a 6'5", hand up, probably 7 feet off the ground plus linebacker. With a linebacker like that, off the ball linebacker, top 5, we're comfortable?
I am, because look, we're going to talk about Jeremiah Love and being able to flex about. Like, to me, the answer to that is we have Sonny Styles. So if you want to walk out a great running back, Bijan Robinson, Saquon Barkley, the fact that he can walk out at 6'5" and run the way he does, that is rare for a defense coordinator to be able to keep that player on the field and let him play in space.
You saw the tape during the season. That was impressive. You see what he did at the Combine. That makes teams salivate. It's going to be fascinating to see where Sonny Styles goes. We're not done talking about Ohio State because they're just about the Buckeye defenders earlier in the show, but we would be remiss if we didn't take some time to talk about that guy running that route, catching that pass. That's Carnell Tate, Ohio State's top wideout. And everybody's excited to see where he goes in next month's NFL draft. Louis Riddick in the building for today's Pro Day workouts. Louis, what did you see from Tate?
Well, Laura, what I think you saw from Carnell Tate today is that combination of fluidity and suddenness as a route runner. And that's hard to really, capture in a prospect, having both of those traits. But Carnell Tate has them. He's the kind of guy who comes off the line of scrimmage with good foot quickness. You see him, he's very fluid within the pattern stem of his route. He can lower his hips, get in and out of the breaks. And then when he runs the more speed-oriented type of big dig routes on, coming across the middle, or the speed outs on the outside, you just see how fluid and how under control he is running those as well. And then the last part of the down, the catch phase, he's got big, giant hands. He snatches the ball out of the air. There is no double catching, and he just really is the complete all-around receiver. You could just see a number of teams in the top 10 just absolutely salivating, trying to think about what they could do with this guy in their offense, namely maybe a team like New Orleans. But regardless, Carnell Tate is going top 10, and he did everything in his power here today to go ahead and solidify his status as such.
Tell him, Lou, we agree. Oh, look, it's up there. That's real. It's over our heads. Field has 9 wide receivers going in the first 2 rounds of his mock draft, including 6 in the first round. Great draft for wide receivers. That would be tied for 3rd most round 1 receivers ever. The record is 7, done in both 2024 and 2004. Top of that bunch, Carnell Tate to the Browns at number 6. Dan, what do you make of Tate as the top wideout in this class? Do you agree? Do you like him?
Yeah, I'm comfortable with it. I think that when you watch Carnell play, there's remnants of George Pickens in his game.
Ooh.
The long, lengthy, and body control and the way that he can track a football. He's not necessarily this route running savant. I don't believe he's going to just torch people vertically with his speed. But when you think of George Pickens, it's the catch the contested catches, make the strong-handed catches with the defender draping over you, the leaping ability with the ball while the ball is in the air. I think that Carnell Tate showed that this past season. I guess the biggest question that I have is he truly ready? Because when you're drafted in the top 10 to be the one, he played opposite Jeremiah Smith, who's going to be maybe the number 1 pick in the NFL draft next year, certainly consideration for top 5. He benefited off of that. That's my question. Is he ready to step in and have everybody else benefit off him?
I think so. He's another one that was taught under Brian Hartline, who went on to become a head coach who's done such a great job developing receivers. I actually thought, the one question you had was the speed. The time speed was 4.53. I thought he played faster. And to me, he's the number 1 guy, just slightly over Mekhi Lemon. I love the way Lemon plays, his physicality, but because of his size and the fact that Carnell Tate could go outside is why I give him a slight edge over Lemon, who I think is also going to be a great player. But I would put Lemon in the slot where I think someone like Tate could play outside, and that position versatility was the tiebreaker for me. And, you think about a team like the Jets who have Garrett Wilson. I think Tate is much more of a complement to what Garrett Wilson could do than, let's say, somebody like Mekhi Lemon, who, again, I think is going to be a great player. You hear a lot of St. Brown comparisons on him. They should both be great. But to answer your question, Dan, I think Tate, because of that system, because of that coaching staff, he should be ready to go from day 1.
Yeah, I love Mekhi Lemon as well. Amon-Ra St. Brown is the guy. If I were drafting receivers, I would want to find a bunch of guys that just played like and competed like Amon-Ra St. Brown.
Yeah.
I'm a believer. You got to block to be a part of the offense. He's great at that. He's tough. He's reliable. He's got great body language. Mekhi Lemon, so many similarities.
I interviewed Brian Hartline about all of his recent great receivers, and the thing he said about Carnell Tate was the mental makeup is the most impressive thing about his game. Which you think about how impressive his game is on the field.
All those
Ohio
State receivers are smart, man.
They are. You have
see
to
that
be.
on tape. Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, I love that you said that. Okay, still to come. In his first appearance as a Falcon, there. New on NFL Live. Okay, this is really cool. This video just coming in. The Chiefs posting the first video of Patrick Mahomes throwing since his season ended 101 days ago. The injury was a torn ACL and LCL back in December. What do you think, Dan? Just first reaction to seeing him back out there. It looks pretty good, right?
Yeah, I love it. Obviously, we all want Patrick to get back as healthy as possible, as quickly as possible. Opening day would be absolutely amazing for him to be the week 1 starter. I don't put anything past him.
Guys, I was thinking, was PUP in the mix for him, meaning he would have to miss the first 4 games if he wasn't ready to go. The fact that we still have 5 more full months to go and he's doing this already is super encouraging. And obviously, we all want to see a healthy Patrick Mahomes as quickly as possible.
Even if they want to slow play it a little bit, they have Justin Fields. That's part of the reason why they bring him in. But, again, to your point, that's still 5 months away. A lot of time for him to get ready.
Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I was surprised to see that today. I mean, that's really incredible.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you're a Chiefs fan, you're like watching that on loop, and we get it. Okay, big news earlier this month when the Dolphins released quarterback Tua Tagovailoa right as the new league year started. Tua, of course, would go on to sign the one-year deal with the Falcons. Tua spoke to the media in Atlanta for the first time yesterday about why this is now the right fit.
Last year wasn't the best year for me, and I'm looking for a fresh start, but fresh start in the sense of being able to compete, being able to go back out there and playing good football, and I think the best football is still ahead of me. You got Yak and Kyle Pitts. You can throw it in the vicinity of Drake. Drake's going to catch it. You got a back like Bijan, and you got the play-action game to work off of that to get these guys the ball. All in all, I think it can be really dangerous.
Trying to figure out where he was for that.
Some balcony.
It's like
somewhere.
The balcony, the camera's all moving.
Hawaii.
Okay, Hawaii, I don't know, yeah. Adam, Michael Penix Jr. suffered a partially torn ACL back in November. So how does that play into the dynamics in that quarterback room and where they may go as far as who starts?
Well, Laura, that's the first big question that the Atlanta Falcons have to answer with their new head coach, Kevin Stefanski, their new general manager, Ian Cunningham, their new president, Matt Ryan. They have to see how healthy Michael Penix is, because until that is figured out, then everything is up in the air. And with Michael Penix's health in question, there's a real path for Tua Tagovailoa to become the Falcons' starting opening day quarterback, because Penix will have to operate in a new system with a new offense. Who knows how quickly he'll pick it up? Who knows how much he'll be able to practice during OTAs in the summer? That opens up a path for Tua to be able to be the Falcons' potential opening day starter. Now, they did add Trevor Siemian this week. They moved on from Kirk Cousins when the new league year began. So the quarterback room as it stands right now is Penix, Tua, and Trevor Siemian. And Tua, right now, would seem to be the favorite to be the opening day starter, but all is riding on the health of Michael Penix and how his knee is recovering.
Yeah, I would expect Tua to be the opening day starter just strictly off of health and Michael Penix and how healthy does he get to actually start to learn this new offense. I think for Atlanta, can you get Tua back to playing with what I would call the triple A's? Aggression, accuracy, and anticipation. If you look on the left side, that 22 to 24 stretch, that's what he was known for. No one was throwing the ball sooner to guys that weren't open but would throw them open into windows, and Tua did. And then last year, as the season went on, he became a much less aggressive quarterback. He became a much less anticipatory quarterback, and the accuracy fell off because he was waiting for guys to get open and seeing it rather than just kind of the muscle memory of cutting it loose. If Atlanta can get him back to that, I do think that he could play winning starting quarterback football in the NFL. But I think it's a little bit of Atlanta getting him there, and I think it's a lot of Tua getting himself back to being that kind of player.
So many people are like, oh, man, this worked out well with Sam Darnold. We've seen other players, quarterbacks especially, kind of rehab their careers, and everyone kind of feels like that could happen here in some ways. But there's a long way to go to get there, right? And you got to
remember, Sam was – his superpower was resiliency. He never got broken from his journey. Does Tua have that?
It's hard to have that, right?
Right.
Okay, still no decision for Aaron Rodgers and his future in Pittsburgh. For context, Rodgers did not make his decision last year until June. That's why earlier in the show, Dan said it'll be June. Reports have said they expect a resolution earlier this offseason. New Steelers wideout Michael Pittman Jr. was asked about the quarterback position earlier this week.
Obviously, the whole quarterback thing is going on. She's like, I don't know nothing.
Michael.
I haven't talked to Aaron.
What a way to put it. What a way to put it. Hold on. The whole quarterback thing going on. What do you mean you haven't talked to Aaron? What do you mean?
So I'm trying to give him space, because Aaron's a guy, he likes his space. He likes to get, refreshed. I didn't want to just get signed and then blow him up and be like, hey, Aaron, what's the deal? But, just give him time, him and his wife, they got to handle some things, and then he will decide if he wants to come back or not.
Great job by Kay Adams there, asking the tough questions, really trying getting more out of him. I love it. So the Steelers' newest wide receiver hasn't heard from Rodgers. Adam, any sense of how much the team, though, has heard from their potential quarterback?
It's sort of been a moving target here all along. I think the initial hope was that they would hear from him about 30 days after the season. That became mid-March, that became late March, and lo and behold, here we are in late March, and there's still no answer from Aaron Rodgers. These things usually tend to drag out, and this one is dragging out again. Listen, I would think that they're going to have to know something before the NFL draft, but this deadline, this date, continues to be pushed back to later and later. And it's not like they really need an answer immediately anyway. Like, they're going to be depending on Will Howard. They have Mason Rudolph on the roster. And if Aaron Rodgers decides he doesn't want to come back, Kirk Cousins is out there, and they always could pivot to him as an option. So it's not like they have to have the answer. The sooner, the better. But Aaron Rodgers operates on his own timeline, and there's no deal and no decision done right now, and they'll continue to wait for an answer for the quarterback that they do want to return to Pittsburgh to work with Mike McCarthy again.
Adam, I know that's a great summary of what's happened so far, but to me, like the way they've comported themselves, it seems like it is a certainty that they are going to sign. When you think about all the veterans that they have acquired, starting with the trade of Michael Pittman, Rico Dowdle, Jameel Dean, amongst others. Like, to me, that is a team, and we were even heard the owner talk about, like, we don't rebuild in Pittsburgh. We want to be competitive every year. So I don't think you acquire all those veterans if you were going to tear it down and rebuild with a new head coach, much the way we're seeing, for example, the Dolphins. So to me, we'll see what happens, but I can't imagine that Aaron Rodgers, unless he changes his mind, doesn't come back, because to me, from a team-building standpoint, it certainly seems that's the way this is heading.
Adam illustrated some of the loose deadlines or maybe markers as far as timeline goes. He told Pat McAfee earlier this month that there's no deadline put in front of me. That, of course, coming from the Steelers side of things.
Right, but Laura, if I was them, I don't like using the word deadline because it does impact your credibility in the future, but like, as Adam mentioned, like, you want to know by the draft, because if you're sitting there at 21,
Adam, we're going to have Aaron Rodgers breaking news at the draft again? We see that happening again?
I don't expect that Pittsburgh's going to be going quarterback in round one. So to me, the draft is not really a deadline. I don't think that factors in. I think that they know they're smart enough to give Aaron Rodgers the time he needs to operate in the space that he wants and needs, and that when he's ready, he can give them a decision about whether he's ready or not to come back, whether that's next week, next month, or post-draft. I don't think the draft is going to impact what they do and how much they want him back.
Okay, so really interesting there. If you're a Steelers fan or just a fan in general trying to figure this out, I think we just realized it's going to address the media.
It's an honor to feel that confidence come from your teammates and come from, the third floor and your head coach. And, for us to get this deal done, speaks volumes. Definitely just a little weight off my shoulders, and just to go out there and, let it fly.
I really wish you guys could have just seen Bond sprinting around the studio. That's our researcher. Yeah, he had whatever is on that paper was really important. Mike T, like many reigning Super Bowl champs, we saw Seattle lose a bunch of talent this offseason. There's Bonds. Shout out to Bonds. He's the best. I want a Bonds camera. Now, the Seattle Seahawks are spending big to keep their top wideout. Is Seattle spending, you think, in the right places, though, this offseason?
Absolutely. It's talent and character. To me, it had to be about Jackson Smith and Jigba. And Devin Witherspoon, in my opinion, probably isn't far behind. They lost some really good players, as you mentioned, Laura, highlighted by players like Reek Woolen, Kenneth Walker, Super Bowl MVP. But when you can keep someone like Jackson Smith and Jigba in the prime of his career, you are telling your locker room, and Dan, you know this as a former player, we are going to reward talent, we're going to reward production and character. So this was an absolute have-to-have. I admire their discipline to let those other players graduate, which certainly isn't easy, but Smith and Jigba is a foundational piece.
I love the player. I love the fact that he got paid. I love the way that he grew early on in his career. He became one of the, if not the best receivers in football this year. I do think it's interesting to pay attention to Seattle right now, just how they're building their football team. They're going to pay their wide receiver room about a quarter of their salary cap. They're going to pay that room over $80 million this year. I don't disagree with it, and I do think it's the benefit of Sam Darnold's getting $33 million. That's 15th highest in the league. Does that stay? If you're Sam Darnold, are you not trying to go get more money after winning the Super Bowl? They're obviously not paying a running back. All their tight ends are young players, so they're reaping the benefit of it. But to pay three guys $73+ million at wide receiver, I think we don't see that often in the NFL.
And I think Rashid Shaheed was interesting because when they acquired him, and you're like, okay, maybe there's like a short-term rental, but they extended him, and he has game-changing speed. So, like, to me, that makes sense. I would think Cooper Kupp, if they were going to make a move, would probably be the next one out. Maybe he gets through the year. But they have some other young guys like Torrey Horton behind them as well.
Yeah, and Bobo.
You don't love losing
Cooper's
Cooper
just such an important part to their offense. He's a guy that just does stuff that doesn't show up on box scores but shows up on tape.
Come on, Laura. You're asking a quarterback if he wants a veteran receiver. They came out of the room saying yes.
Reliable. He was a former Ram, too.
Reliable.
All right. Adam, what more do you want to add?
Well, this has been a busy offseason for the Seattle Seahawks. And when you win a Super Bowl, you pay a premium to your players to keep them. And it's one of the reasons that they could not afford to re-sign Kenneth Walker and let him go into free agency where he wound up with the Kansas City Chiefs, because the Seahawks go ahead and give Jackson Smith-Njigba over $42 million a year and make him the highest paid wide receiver in NFL history, and they're not done yet. At some point this offseason, they'd like to address the contractual status of their outstanding young quarterback, Devin Witherspoon, and get him signed to a long-term deal that will not be cheap. And between paying Jackson Smith-Njigba and paying Devin Witherspoon, that limits the options that you have elsewhere, and that is why they've had to make some of the financial decisions they have this offseason.
Shefty, have you heard anything about Sam Darnold trying to rework his deal? I know it's only in his second year, but he is the Super Bowl champion quarterback, making 15th most money in the league.
Dan, anytime a player wins a Super Bowl, and anytime he's the starting quarterback for a Super Bowl winner, usually we see quarterbacks, coaches, general managers have their contracts adjusted after Super Bowl wins. It would not be a surprise if at some point before the start of the season, the Seahawks incentivized Sam Darnold, rewarded him to some degree. I don't think they're going to tear up the contract and give him a new deal, but do I think that there could be enhancements and rewards that are added? Yeah, I think that could happen.
Yeah, well-deserved. And you just think about Sam Darnold's story, remarkable all the way around. New on NFL Live, we got some clarification. Let's look ahead, okay, to the opening week of the football calendar, what it's going to look like. The champs, we're talking about Sam Darnold, they will open up on Wednesday night in Seattle against an opponent still to be determined. And how about this? The following night here in the States, the 49ers and Rams will play a game from Australia. So the kickoff is at 8:35 p.m. Eastern on Thursday night, which means with the time difference, the game will kick off at 10:35 a.m. local in Melbourne between the Rams and the 49ers. Adam, not only the schedule, not the only schedule news, there's more. We got an update on the upcoming Super Bowl locations. What do we need to know?
Or the NFL will have its owners' meetings next week in Arizona, where they're expected to approve the Super Bowl 63 for Las Vegas, Nevada. So it would return there. The Super Bowl, as we all know, is scheduled for L.A. next season. It is scheduled for Atlanta the season after, and it looks like right now everything is on track to make Las Vegas the home of Super Bowl 63. I was told it's a mere formality, that owners are expected to approve that next week. So it looks like the Super Bowl will be returning to Las Vegas, where it just was a couple of years ago.
Yeah, you see that little highlight there on Super Bowl 61. That's because it's on Valentine's Day. It's on ESPN. It's Disney. It's ABC. I don't know if anybody knew that yet, but
I'm aware. I'm aware it's on ESPN.
We're aware.
ABC,
we
Disney.
can't wait.
Valentine's Day.
It's the first one ever on Valentine's Day. Also, National Hall of Film. You teased it earlier. What was your favorite play from Simpson last season?
Yeah, huge moment. They're on the road, Alabama, against Missouri. It's 4th and 8, and it's a massive throw. And I think the things that stand out are my two favorite things about Ty Simpson. Number one, you watch him have complete ownership at the line of scrimmage. I want to point out to everybody, this is Ty Simpson, okay? When you watch Alabama's tape, there's so many consistent moments where he's up at the line of scrimmage communicating to everybody, changing a protection, telling everybody what their responsibilities are, and then trying to make an incredibly difficult throw and pulling it off. So I talk about being 4th and 8, and I talk about Ty Simpson being at the line of scrimmage. Now, why is he at the line of scrimmage? I want to point out Missouri's defense, they have 1, 2, 3, 4 defenders from really that guard all the way over. So he wants to take that left guard and send those offensive linemen completely that way and just free up his left tackle to play one-on-one, because this is a really difficult lineman to try to protect. So that's number one. He communicates all that on the road, 4th and 8, huge moment, okay? This is going to be the concept, okay? You are going to get this receiver to inside release. He's going to run what we call a pylon. This outside receiver is going to run what we call a whip return, and then the receiver is going to catch the football, is going to go outside release, back inside on a chase route, and then go to the high pylon, high corner. Now, two things. Ty Simpson has his eyes staring here at number one. It's 4th and 8. He wants to throw that football. But that corner's locked down, right? If he throws that football, it's picked, it's batted down, it's nothing. This is where I think he's really good at. Leverage of that defender on that deep pylon route is outside. That route is dead. Leverage of this defender on that corner route is outside leverage. They have help in the middle of the field. That route is technically dead. It's 4th and 8. You can't just throw the football or scramble. When he shuffles and cuts this football loose, I want everyone to see, there's no way that you would think this ball gets completed with the game on the line. But I think Ty Simpson has some high leverage moments, high leverage throws. That ball is absolutely perfect. On the road, hostile environment, great coverage, and you beat perfect coverage with the perfect throw. I think that was a throw that happened earlier in the year that really started to put Ty Simpson on the map. But the pre-snap stuff is such a big deal. He talked about it with Field Yates. The ability to go to line of scrimmage, own it, communicate it, and then execute after the snap, I think is a calling card of his.
Just truly amazing. I mean, Dan, you illustrated that so well. You see how unlikely it seems that that pass is going to be completed, that anticipation, as Dan's talking about, key part of his game. He doesn't throw many picks either, by the way, which I think is another thing that could be attractive to some of these NFL teams. Simpson got off to a great start last season, going 7-1 with 20 touchdowns and 1 interception, but he injured his back at South Carolina. He wasn't the same after that. He dealt with a lot playing through injury, went 4-3 after that injury, just 8 touchdowns and 4 interceptions. Mike T, we've heard what Dan thinks, and he's shown us as well. What do you make of Simpson as a prospect?
I like him similar to Dan, although I have Mendoza 1, Simpson 2, but I think Simpson is a top 16 quarterback for some of the reasons Dan mentioned, but he throws the ball better than I think a lot of people realize, and I think when a lot of the NFL community saw him at the Combine, that's when the narrative also changed. He's 6'1", so you have to be able to drive the ball down the field, much the way we see Baker Mayfield be able to do that, Brock Purdy be able to do that. Arguably, his arm is as good, maybe slightly better than Brock Purdy, and you have to be able to get the ball outside the numbers down the field. We talked earlier in the show about the Jets having a private workout. I've been there. I've done that. I'm telling you, you have to say to yourself, can we win at Buffalo? Can we win at New England?
Yeah.
Can we win in November and December? They're going to want to make sure that his arm strength is good enough. So when you have that with the intangibles that Dan talked about, you have a top 16 pick.
Okay, I love hearing that. I want to throw a few things at you, Dan. One of the things that Field mentioned at the top of the show, if anybody missed it, was that Ty Simpson himself was saying he's more athletic than people give him credit for. And some people say, all right, well, his size is an issue, and if you're smaller, you need to be super athletic. He's not super athletic,
No.
but what can you say about how he could combat some of the doubters based around the size?
I think he's plenty athletic to be a starting quarterback in the NFL that is needed nowadays. You watch the Alabama tape, plenty of opportunity to be a design run guy. There's multiple moments when he scrambles. I would tell you there's moments when I say he relies a little bit too much on his athleticism to try and go make a play. It's not the Caleb Williams, you're holding onto the football too long extreme, but he does have some moments where I'm like, hey, get the ball out of your hands. So he's a very good athlete.
One other X factor to me, guys, is Ryan Williams took a step back this year, and I think a lot of times you say like, oh, Alabama, they're going to be loaded at their skill players. They really weren't this year. When you think about running back and the lack of production there,
I would tell you how many 4 or 5 drops a game it felt like.
Right,
Yeah.
and that's where I think he's going to get the benefit of the doubt as you go through the process that he didn't maybe have as much to work with, even though he was at Alabama.
Again, he will have the private workout with the Jets on Friday. We'll be all over that. And I just want to say as we go away here, we're not saying Fernando Mendoza